So to get us back on track, I know that we did a lot last week, and it's tough to kind of understand what we did here, and we stopped mid-script here when we were doing it last week. So I'm going to go back to the point where we have these lines, and I'll just rebuild the rest of it so you can follow.
So we stopped at line then?
Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning and look at what we have. So I just explained to you that you've got to have connected down here, right? So when you jump down, these connections should all be there. You need to have your grid count X and grid count Y from the original grid.
Did you copy that or just plug it in?
I did that jump method that I used, that I showed you last week.
Oh, that's confusing.
So to create a jump connection like this, you borrow the same type of parameter. So this is an integer.
Mm-hmm.
So you put in an integer and you plug it in. Rename it to whatever you want to rename it as. So you count. And then I made the wire display hidden. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Then I took that and I move it down. So that's how you make the links.
So I plug in extent X and Y into the integer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And what you should have at that point from your input, everything should be set to 5. I'm just going to make that our standard for today. Set everything to 5. Grid count X, grid count Y, U count, V count, all 5, and the surface itself. And then you recall how to do the rest of it, right? So we did a subdivide surface, right? So our domain subdivision was based on the U and V count. Actually, one of these is a V count. That's a mistype. So our domain for U and V are going to be borrowed from our U and V above under warped surface. And then our subdivide surface is right here, which we deconstructed, and we have panels. Okay, so up to this point, you should remember, I think, what we've accomplished up to that point. Right, so that only gives us this. And let me hide the geometry there. Okay, so that gave us the subdivided warped surface.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've got two things that we need to do to this. We need to, well, actually we've got 3. So we need to pull the frame behind it, and that frame that I pulled behind was done with evaluate surface. So I went from the faces, not flattened. Remember, in this one we want to be hyper-controlled about what information we're flattening. So we moved from faces, and we plugged that into the surface closest point, which is under surface analysis. Faces plugged into the S, the surface input.
Mm-hmm.
And then we found our centroid by taking each of those faces and finding, using the area node. And we plugged the centroid into the P input of the surface closest point. Okay, and then from that we used evaluate surface, right? So the UVP output from surface closest point gets plugged into the UV input of evaluate surface. Right, so this is all refresher still. I'm trying to refresh your mind about what we did last week. And then in order to move them away along the trajectory of the surface normal, I simply did, with the move command, I modified the translation vector with an amplify vector. So rev is reverse. If you don't have rev, what's going to happen is it's going to put them inside.
That's what I was going to ask you. How do you choose mark?
Which is okay. If you want it inside, that's fine. I wanted it on the outside.
Oh.
Yeah, you could do a negative number as well. This just translates your input to be your vector direction be the other direction,
Oh, okay.
the
That's
origin.
That's all you gotta do to switch it to the other side, just turn it into a negative.
Okay, so that moved the centroid, and then provided, the reason I'm reminding you about not flattening, provided you did not flatten everything, you should have one centroid that gets moved out per group, right? So a group of centroid that a group of singular centroids that are being fed back into this line command or line node, and then the opposite corner that they're trying to meet is the vertices of the deconstruct brep. And the vertices, if you notice, if it's not flattened, comes out as a group of 4. So that means it creates 4 lines from the singular centroid to each of those endpoints. Okay?
What about the AB thing? Can we delete that?
AB thing?
The subtraction AB, we had 2 of them.
Yeah, I deleted that.
Okay.
We'll get back to some of that in a second. Actually, I think on mine I omitted it.
You
Okay.
did what now?
I think on my modified one I omitted it, so I don't think you need it at all.
Oh, okay.
So we can delete the others.
Yeah, you can delete everything except for this.
I see.
This is all you need right now. I'm going to walk you through again constructing the rest of it. So I'm going to stop the video here, and I'll put this up as like a transitional thing on the YouTube channel, so that you guys can follow at home if you need to go through it again, and you won't get lost with a totally new script jumping in the video.